Hi there, and thank you for visiting the Animal Donut channel. My name is Jeff Luke. I'm a professional photographer. I take pictures of people, and I also take pictures of small plastic animals and donuts. Today I want to teach you about a couple of things that I feel will help you to get much better as a photographer. And it's not some gear, some camera or lens you need to get. It's learning about light. And you might say, well, why is light so important? I want to take better pictures, but it's because photography is about drawing with light. The word photo is from a Greek word photon, meaning light, and graphy means drawing. So when you're doing photography, you're drawing with light. Light comes in two qualities. One of them is called specular light, and that is light that has highlights, really bright areas, and really dark areas, shadows. The other kind of light is diffused light. And diffused light, it has a wide range of tones, but it doesn't have any areas that are really bright, like whites, and it doesn't have any deep, dark shadow parts. And the reason it's helpful to know is, for example, let's say you're taking a picture of somebody, you're doing a portrait. Well, if you want to flatter them and look really beautiful, you want them to have creamy, smooth skin, then it's really good to use diffused light. Because diffused light, it kind of doesn't show a lot of texture and a lot of detail. So if somebody has some wrinkles or imperfections in their skin, diffused light will just gloss over them. You won't even see it. On the other hand, if you want to show the wrinkles and creases and characters and pores in someone's skin, then you would want to use specular light. The other thing just to keep in mind is specular light travels in straight lines, like the sun's rays travel in straight lines. And diffuse light travels in all different directions, up and down and all, bouncing around. And so just knowing that will help you as a photographer, because at some point you might create your own light. And when you do that, knowing the difference between specular and diffuse is going to really help you. Now, the other thing I want to teach you about is geometry, okay? And geometry is just shapes and how they look in your photos. So when you're taking pictures, you won't really be looking for circles and squares and triangles and lines, diagonal lines. But when you look at your photos afterwards, you're going to notice that the best ones have geometry in them, okay? And a lot of people talk about composition, and I think that's okay to talk about that, and there are a lot of rules for it. But I think that thinking more in terms of geometry and noticing that strong shapes and lines in your pictures are really going to be what set you apart from other photographers. That's something you can concentrate on and work to improve in the future. And I'm talking about lighting, and I'm talking about geometry. The geometry of your photo is kind of like the skeleton or the bones. It's the structure that holds it together. And the light is like the skin. That's like what lights the surfaces to help people who are looking at your pictures see stuff. So another thing I just want to tell you about, because I think it's easy to get lost with all the digital cameras out there and all the lenses and different techniques, is that becoming great as a photographer is about your creative vision. It's about what you choose to photograph and the way you shoot it. And if you're inventive and if you're creative about that, and you truly do stuff that speaks to your heart and that looks different from what everyone else is shooting, your pictures are really going to stand out. I feel like a lot of people think that if they buy a more expensive camera or a better lens, that somehow magically their pictures are going to get better. But I don't think that's true, because if you look at someone who takes pictures with, just say, their cell phone, and they say, I really want to get better as a photographer, and they spend thousands of dollars on a nice camera, their pictures are probably not going to really be any better, because they'll be taking the same pictures they shot with their cell phone, only they're going to be having this really expensive camera. They're going to be shooting the same thing. So what you want to be is not someone who has more gear, but somebody who uses that as a tool, but is really seeing things differently. So in order to get good at seeing things, I feel like you really want to take pictures of just one thing. And what I mean is just strip away all the extraneous, all the extra stuff that's going to get in your way and distract you, and just use one camera, one lens, and choose to photograph one subject. Say you really love animals. Well, rather than saying like, I want to just photograph pets, spend a few weeks or a few months and just photograph dogs, and use one camera, one lens, and take pictures of dogs, and take pictures during different times of day, under different kinds of light, and just see how much better you're going to get, because you're going to become an expert in that one specific area. And also there's a book I want to tell you about. It's called The One Thing. Here's what it looks like. And this isn't a photography book. This is a book that you can apply to any area of your life. And it basically tells you that whatever you prioritize, you'll get good at. And the things that you try to multitask at, and you try to do a little of this and a little of that, those are the things that you become distracted at, and you never really get progress. There's a really good quote on this. It says, if you chase two rabbits, you will not catch either one. It's a Russian proverb. And that's like, if you go after too many things, you're not going to catch either of them. So that's my advice to you. And then another thing I think is super useful is, look at other photos so that you can get better at the photos you take. But don't just look at anyone's photos. Look at really great photos, because those will inspire you and those will teach you just by looking at them. You will learn so much, and you're also going to get ideas that will inform and inspire your own photography, okay? So no matter what you're photographing, but especially if you want to get good at photographing people, I recommend looking at great portrait photography. And the best portrait photographer that I see out there, and whose photos I really admire, his name's Greg Heisler, and this is his book, Gregory Heisler, 50 Portraits. And Greg is a Time magazine photographer. He's shot for a lot of different magazines, but he's done more than 70 covers for Time and photographed a whole bunch of presidents, and he's really, really good. And in that book I just showed you, he goes through the whole experience of meeting the subject, the person he was photographing, and what kind of gear he brought, and what it was like showing up at their house, and the difficulties he had, and some of the equipment might not be working well, and so how he kind of solved those problems and used light and set things up to get the photo. And it's so inspiring. So anyways, I really highly recommend looking at great work like Greg's. And a third book I want to tell you about is just one that I wrote, and it's called Captain of Your Camera, and I'll put the link down below in the description. I wrote this book so that people who are starting out in photography, who have a lot of questions about, like, what camera should I get, or what's a good lens to get, or what do these controls mean, and how do I set them, and what's the best mode to shoot in, I just answer those in a really straightforward, simple way. So if that's something you'd like to learn about, you might like to check out the book. And just want to tell you also about this channel, Animal Donut. I'm going to use this channel to teach you guys about the art and the creativity that goes into making any really beautiful photos. And I'm going to show you how I do the Animal Donut pictures. I will show you step by step how I set everything up, the donuts, the animal selection, how I put them together, and then how I use light, specular light, diffuse light, to really bring out the best qualities in the things I'm photographing. And I'll show you each step along the way, and then I'll show you the final picture. And so there you go. I hope this has been useful and that you've liked it. If you have, give this video a thumbs up. If you'd like, you might like to subscribe to the channel. Also, you can check out my Instagram pics of Animal Donut. My username on Instagram is Animal Donut, Animal D-O-N-U-T. And yeah, thanks so much for watching this video. If you have any questions or any comments, please put them below in the comments, and I will try to respond to them. And thank you so much again for checking out this video.